Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. My name is Katie Wysocki. I'm the director in the Career Enrichment Network. Today, we have our alumni career conversation, Careers in Publishing. We have three great alumni with us to share their experience within the industry, as well as give helpful advice to how you can consider starting or gaining experience in it as well. I'm going to start by reading off some bios. I have some questions as well, but we encourage you to use the Q&A as well as the chat to share your own thoughts and or questions that I can monitor and ask our great alumni who are here with us today. Going to start with Sara. Sara Singh is currently living in Chicago, Illinois. Since graduating in 2020 from Penn State University, she has worked in digital marketing for Wiley, a global publishing, education, and research organization. When she first started at Wiley, she worked in their university services division on content marketing strategies and recently moved to their global enterprise marketing team supporting the research publishing division. We also have Chrissy Mayer with us. Chrissy is an author, coach, and speaker who empowers individuals and organizations to turn obstacles into opportunities to understand their beauty, purpose, and power. Christine was born with a cleft lip and palate and has had over 25 surgeries. In elementary school, Christine was classified as learning disabled. Despite that, Chrissy is the author of the award-winning books Blue Sky Morning and The Too Tall Giraffe. Christine earned her bachelor's degree from the Pennsylvania State University and a master's degree from the University at Albany. During her career in the NYPD, Chrissy was a policy analysis instructor in the police academy and a 9/11 rescue worker. She retired in the rank of sergeant. While assigned to New York City Emergency Management, Chrissy became the first female director of Watch Command. A sense of adventure and a passion for storytelling blends together to influence transformational change. Lisa McAllister Bertolini is the Vice President of Professional Publishing for the Health, Learning, Research, and Practice Division of Wolters Kluwer and has been responsible for various types of content acquisition for more than 25 years. Lisa currently leads the content teams for medical education and practice, as well as the Wolters Kluwer Spanish language program and the audio digest continuing medical education content team. She has spent most of her career working with various types of referential and subscription-based content in medicine, formerly as a clinics editor, acquisition editor, director of digital strategy, medicine, and publisher. The medicine teams under Lisa's guidance are charged with the publication of educational content, as well as cutting-edge clinical and referential content and the deployment of that content in print and digital platforms. Lisa holds a Bachelor's of Science in English and Technical Writing from the Pennsylvania State University. Prior to joining what was then J.B. Lippincott, she spent 5 years with the W.B. Saunders Company, now Elsevier. Thank you all for being here and sharing your wonderful bios and career journeys. Going to again invite our students if you have any questions, but to get started, I'm going to ask the big one, and how did you decide on your career journey? Sara, would you like to start, our most recent graduate?
Sure. Actually, this is really exciting. I love sharing this with the fellow Penn Staters who reach out to me. My career path was not, I don't know, I always say it's not traditional, but it's so funny because every time I say that, other people tell me their stories, and I just realize what does traditional even look like? I don't even know anymore. But I actually had a learning disability, or have a learning disability as well, Chrissy. So it's good to hear that you're a part of this panel as well. Learning for me was never easy. Figuring out what I wanted to do was also never easy. And I remember in school, I would go back and forth between like, I even had this aspiration, probably the longest one, of wanting to become a gynecologist. To help women. I was like, oh, that would be like the coolest thing. I want to do that. I think I'd love it. And then I was like, oh, wait, how long do you have to go to school? I don't know about that. How much is that going to cost? Let me check that aspiration at the door. And so like that's like my life story is like constantly going through changes and periods of like, well, what do I like? What do I not like? Feeling like this would be my place, and then deciding that something else would be. So that's kind of how my college journey was as well. I was not really sure of, well, where am I going to go then if I don't really know what I like or what I enjoy. Um, and I actually got involved in, so I should say my bachelor's degree is in integrated social sciences, which is perfect for me because I am a person who loves people and I love the social sciences and I love learning about how the world works and operates around us. And so honestly, it was the perfect bachelor's degree for myself because I was able to learn a lot about myself. And with those like skills of learning about people, having good, like, I don't know, just skills of being able to communicate with others, like all of that accumulated to what I'm doing now, which is marketing. And again, like I found marketing very haphazardly. It just kind of randomly came up. I did a internship with an education company known as Education USA, which is within the US Department of State. And I really loved it. And I was like, I didn't know that I could work in education, which is something so wholesome. And I can still be a marketer, which I actually really enjoy communicating with people, and trying to find purpose behind whatever product or whatever service we were supporting or selling, right? And so I decided this is what I want to do. And I started researching organizations that existed within the education, the education sector. And that's actually how I found Wiley. So Wiley was on my list of places that I'd like to end up. And I just stuck to that. I stuck to that list and continually applied. And it took me about 6 or 7 months before I got an offer from Wiley. Actually, I was really excited because they were on my top list of employers. And it was really scary, not finding a job right outside of university, but it was worth it because I really enjoy where I'm at right now. So like I said, my career journey was not easy. It was kind of meandering all over the place, but here I am.
Sorry, I thought I'd be quicker on the mute. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. Christy, if you'd like to share a similar how you ended in your career journey and what propelled you into the idea of being an author in the end, and what was able to motivate you and support you in that decision.
Yeah, I when I graduated Penn State, I joined the NYPD, and I really enjoyed that for all 20 years I was there. But towards the end of my career, I started to think about what do I want to do when I retired? Because you can't retire in your 40s and just sit at home, as much as I'd love to do that. But so 1 year I actually did this goal setting program, and I set a whole bunch of goals, and I couldn't tell you what any of them were, except that one of them was to start writing a book. And within weeks, I found this program to help me write a book and publish it. So I was like, well, I have this goal and I have this opportunity. And so I just followed that path. And I wrote my first book in about 7 months, and it took over a year after that to publish it. So that's how I got started. And then, so that's a novel. And my second book is actually a children's book that I wrote when I was in high school, and I left it at high school. And after I wrote this first book, I kept thinking, I really wish I had that other book. I really wish I had that other book. And I was like, duh, you're an author, go write it and publish it again. So that's kind of how I got started. And now that I have the bug, I just keep writing.
Nice. Thank you so much. Lisa, could you tell me a little bit how your Penn State degree helped to support you into your career with technical writing in English?
Sure. I actually started as a medical technology major and realized that a life looking through a microscope was not going to work for me. I liked people better. So I have a minor in biology, and my degree is in English and technical writing. I applied for a job as a proofreader at a medical publishing company. Those jobs don't exist anymore. There's something called spell check. But it was the combination of biology, a little understanding of medicine, or at least biology, and the ability to write. So I landed that job. I was, after a time, promoted to copy editor. My classes at Penn State with in English for something, technical writing and editing, were phenomenal because I knew what to do. I was well prepared. But I think the thing I would want to stress is no one in medical publishing is there on purpose. Everyone in the entire industry is there by accident. So if you're thinking about publishing as a career, there's all kinds of engineering publishing and medical publishing and fashion publishing. And, you know, when you're looking for what you want to do next, keep an open mind, because medical publishing is, it sounds really boring, but we are teaching doctors and we help patients. And so there's a mission and a purpose to what we do.
Thank you. It's a great segue, and you're sharing your different titles, Lisa. Many times we meet with quite a few students every week in individual career coaching appointments, and those interested in publishing and or writing, technical writing, are always interested in how they break in to the career and what's the title they're looking for, or what is the level of experience they need in order to get entry level. And sometimes, maybe I'm wrong, but we have realistic conversations of you're probably starting at the bottom up, right? And working your way in. But any advice on what they're looking for when it comes to those titles, regardless of publisher, as they get ready to graduate, and advice that they can gain experience in order to be competitive?
Sure. Titles like editorial assistant or developmental editor or content editor are the entry-level positions, and that's probably where you're going to start. I actually just this morning have hired a recent Penn State grad as an editorial assistant who will be working in publishing is also a pretty diverse place. So she'll be doing some billing work for accounts payable, but also market research and correspondence and a little bit of travel. So it's publishing tends to be a jack of all trades kind of environment. And I'm very excited to have her on board.
We're excited to have her on board too. Sarah, anything on the educational, your side of things with Wiley of entry level, similar thought?
Yeah, so like I had said, Wiley isn't just a publisher, right? Like we have different divisions that exist within our remit, right? We have the research side, which is journal publishing. So more like scientific papers, working with like societies, that sort of thing. We also have our like textbook publishing division, which is called academic professional learning. And then we have our university services, which is dedicated to working with universities and helping build out like online programming, that sort of thing. And so I think it's really important that if you look at the places where you want to work and you want to work in publishing, don't be afraid to start somewhere that could potentially get you into a publishing role. So like take myself, for example. I started in our university services division, which isn't directly publishing, but Wiley really values internal hiring. So because of that, we have open lines of communication with our managers, our recruiters within our teams, and we're really able to make those transitions as we get accustomed with Wiley. And so that's the cool part is even though you can start in one place, you could end up somewhere very different over time. And so don't be afraid to start off in a different division of whatever company that you want to work for, because you could find yourself in that cool role that you're like, hey, I wanted to be a publishing manager or whatever it may be. Well, you can work your way up to getting to that. Or you may decide, hey, I actually want to go and work in textbook publishing. And there's so many opportunities. So don't just tell yourself, I want to do this specific thing, because you may be missing out on other things, or you may have an opportunity to get in somewhere else and then build your career within. And so, for example, I also work in marketing, right? But that doesn't mean that, similar to how Lisa has said, that it's like almost a jack of all trades type of role working in publishing. I know very many people who do work specifically within the publishing side, and they do a lot of different things, right? That consists of marketing, that consists of working with editors, that consists of like putting together events, data management, like all of that stuff is in one role, right? And so even if I decided tomorrow I don't want to work in marketing anymore, I can go become a JPA. There are roles open all the time. That's a journal publishing assistant, by the way. So very much entry level role, that if you want to work in publishing or work with journals, it's a really great entry level position. One other thing I wanted to mention is, for these like entry level roles, they're also not saying that you have to have like a master's degree or a PhD, or you have to be a subject matter expert. No one's saying that. Again, kind of how like Lisa was saying that everybody ends up in medical publishing by accident. That's kind of how it is with Wiley too. I talked to a lot of JPAs or JPMs, which are journal publishing managers, who are not math experts, but they have a degree in some social science, right? So think like, and I should say liberal arts, really. Think writing or grammar or English or something like that. That's their degree. It's a really good role for people like that. And so that's something to also mention. And Wiley has lots of open roles right now. From advertising to brand managers, which are like more marketing side, to JPAs, journal publishing assistants. And so, yeah, there's plenty of things for you to do and to get started. You don't have to just find one path. There's multiple paths.
I'd like to add on to that.
Sure, Lisa.
I think most companies really prefer internal hires. It's easier. And in this competitive job market, we spend a lot of time on professional development and having people shadow in other departments. If you think you have an interest in marketing, go work there for a week and see if you like it. So there is a lot of intercompany movement.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's good to hear, Lisa. Wiley doesn't have a program like that, but they're starting to get things put together. But it is good because you can like reach across the aisle and talk to people. People are really open to that. That's good to hear, Lisa.
So you mentioned, Sarah, a lot about transferable skills, and obviously that's something we're sharing with our liberal arts students, in a recognition of what they're capable of doing across industry, based in the analytical, written, oral communication, problem solving, teamwork, global perspective. I can go on in my soapbox of what liberal arts students can do, but what have you found, and for all of you, to have been your strongest skill sets from Penn State, and what would you have done different as a student to maybe feel better prepared after graduation or in your career? And a reminder to our students, as they think about that, you are welcome to ask questions too.
Is it all right if I go real quick, Lisa? Sure. Okay, thank you. I think you were about to start talking. Sorry about that. So I think for me, there are 3 skills that really stand out to me as like being important. So the first one is adaptability or flexibility. And I'm not just talking about like marketing in general, but like this is specific to my role as a marketer. Marketing is a career that is constantly evolving. So you just got to be open to change and ready to try new things when things do come along. So just being adaptable and flexible when that change happens, I think is really important. But I mean, in terms of like publishing, it's also really important to be ready for that change, because publishing is an industry which is traditionally older, right? And there is a reckoning that is happening within the publishing industry, and so there is a lot of change, a lot of motion, a lot of things are just going to be different, and I think that being able to be flexible is also key. Then creativity, I would say, is my second skill that I picked up at Penn State. I have, even though I was online, so I graduated from Penn State Roll Campus, right, as an online student. And even though my coursework was all asynchronous, I mean, I was still able to put in the creative work and be creative. And I think that that's also really important. So just having an open mind, trying new things, innovating, that is really valued. And then the last one is a love of knowledge, which Penn State really did instill in me. I had some really fantastic professors who are just really smart people, really smart and capable. And I think learning from them, having that love of curiosity, of just not understanding something and digging deeper is also really important, because like I said, the publishing industry is full of people who are super smart and capable, and you want to fit there too. And definitely you want to have a love of knowledge, because one day I work with different journals, from medical, like Lisa, to astronomy. I don't know, I just threw something out, but like truly, every day is different. You're learning something new all the time, and just having a curious mind is important, because it's not, sometimes something could be a little bit more mundane, but having that openness to learn is I think really, really good.
I was actually going to say, Christine, we keep talking, but we haven't heard much from you.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing I got out of my Penn State degree, and I feel like it's been a long time, so I'm not going to admit my age, but I feel like just that liberal arts education really, it gave me like the awareness of the world in a way. My first book, is A Woman is Traveling. And I can recall I took a class on French culture. And even that, the things that I learned in that class, I was able to apply to writing this book. And it was a class that I just kind of took on a whim. It fit in my schedule. So those opportunities to take these classes that you don't always know what they're going to mean and how they're going to fit into your life, they allow you to have conversations at cocktail parties, and maybe write a book. And you just never know when they're going to come in handy. And I think especially in writing, kind of having a really basic knowledge of a lot of things is really, really handy. I don't remember what the rest of the question was.
Yeah, it was a stacked question. I think you did
Okay.
a great job. And we do have some student questions coming in right now. Lisa, did you want to touch on that one before I moved on to?
I would, because but I want to say sort of the same thing. A lot of people in the liberal arts are really smart, and they're going to have lots of conversations about things that you will think, I wish I had read that book so that I could be part of this conversation. So be open. Read as much as you can, be open to new conversations and new things. I find critical thinking skills really important. Solve your way out of a problem. Ask for help when you need it. And the last part of that question was, what do I wish I had done differently? I wish I had traveled. I wish I'd taken advantage of the travel abroad program. I think I was poor in college a lot, and it seemed expensive. So I didn't, but that's one of my biggest regrets, was that I did not take advantage of the travel abroad program.
Me too.
You know what, I didn't put a regret, but to be honest with you, I don't have that many regrets in terms of what degree I should have done, or like how I should have done things. And I'm pretty freshly graduated, right? Like 2022 versus it's been less than 3 years, right? And I feel like I have a good head on my shoulders for like the first time in a really, really long time. Like I finally feel like I have a good direction in life, and like things are really starting to come into place. And so I think that a lot of that has to do with the decisions that I made in the past. So I'm really happy with where I'm at. So no regrets right now. We'll see. Maybe 10 years from now, that'll be different, right?
It's all a learning opportunity. So we did have a question come through, and thank you so much, Lisa, for answering it. It came through. I just want to share it with the students that may have missed it, that about internships in publishing. When should students start looking for them? And the career coach says you can look now, as soon as possible, gather experience. It's not just an internship that is good experience. It's working at the communications agency through Belisario. It's working at the Daily Collegian. It's working at Onward State. It's, the strategic communications office in the College of Liberal Arts has interns all year long. It's any opportunity to gain experience and network that can be helpful for you. And that can start as soon as your first year. No pressure, but it could start that early. Someone also specifically asked Lisa in reference to your response that you do have internships. Any suggestions on applying? Is that all on your website, or is that a different cycle? Are we off cycle?
We open those up shortly after the first of the year. And for the past 2 years, we have not had interns because of COVID, but we will have that program again this year. I usually share it with the alumni office. It gets posted there.
Okay.
And we have both remote and my office is based in Philadelphia, but we've had some remote internships as well.
If you'd like to share that directly with me, then we can incorporate it in our marketing from the career office to get those out there, and I can add it to our system.
Yeah, our job descriptions will be available shortly after January 15th. I'll send it then.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
So everyone, for the students on the call, when I work with employers or alumni, those positions are then posted in Nittany Lion Careers. So those are accessible there, and we'll market that one specifically in the newswire once it's there. So just an FYI on that. Okay, so thank you for answering those. We answered that one. And then how about further education for either? I know we're all connected to publishing in unique ways in our careers. Sarah, you're in marketing. Lisa, you've worked up into this wonderful executive role in publishing. Chrissy, you're connected through being an author and being published. Whoever feels best at answering this question, it's postgraduate. Have you felt the need for graduate school work in any of your positions? Some of you have it. And what do you think might be helpful in being an author or publisher? Chrissy, I'll start with you.
So I think having my postgraduate degree was helpful, but I don't think it was necessary. I think it taught me a lot of critical thinking skills. But I actually work with a writing coach, and she has a degree in writing, and she might even have postgraduate. I don't even know. But she really understands like that writing process. So I'm able to tap into all the things that she learned without having to do like that type of work in the author world. I think more important as an author is really like learning, like living life, reading and writing a lot. Those are the three things I think that are most important, because all those other things with writing, you can learn from other people, but nobody can live life for you.
Either Sarah or Lisa, do you see any support in having a graduate degree in your fields?
I want to say for like marketing, it's so weird. You really don't need a master's or PhD or anything like that. Bachelor's degrees are fine. However, I mean, if you want to go up more, a master's degree is great. I will also say that it's great to embed yourself at a company that values education. Because Wiley, for example, we have an education program. So we are able to get free master's degrees because of our university division side. We have partners that we work with, and so that is an option that you can do within the company that you choose to work for. So if you do decide, I want to go get a master's of strategic communications or whatever it may be, MBA, you can do that once you're at that organization. But I will say that there are, like, for authorship, I want to just mention this. So Wiley does publish traditional, fictional, and nonfiction works of literature as well. And for example, one of our brands is For Dummies, which, if anyone knows anything about the For Dummy brand, it is mainly on specific subjects, right? So I think we have one that recently came out all about Queen Elizabeth, actually. So Queen Elizabeth for Dummies, for example. And this was written by someone who just knows a lot about Queen Elizabeth. And I think that this is something really important to think about, very similar to what Chrissy is saying about that you don't really need like a specific education to be an author. I think what is mostly valued in terms of like who can be an author, like who would be ideal, especially for brands like the For Dummies team, when they're looking for authors to publish works, they are looking for people who are just embedded and are subject matter experts. I mean, it can be someone who didn't even go to school to learn about the British monarchy. Like it can just be someone very into that. So I just want to mention that, like, to be an author, I don't think that you have to be a certain level of education. There are so many paths to it. So I just want to mention that.
I would agree. Did I have times when I wished I had pursued a master's? Yes, but then I was also busy doing other things. But when I felt that I was short in an area, I would go all different kinds of places. I took a 3-day Excel course at a local community college because I needed a much more robust set of Excel skills than I had. I took a week at the Kellogg School of Management at one point in Chicago, Sarah. So, you know, I never got my master's. I think I've done okay without it. But I found lots of other places where for micro or short learnings that filled gaps in my skills.
I would imagine in a career in publishing, no matter what side of it is, education is always happening, right? You're always learning. You mentioned, Lisa, you're always reading. You're aware of the trends, social media, technology. There's so many pieces that are developing and enhancing, right? And the reader's experience per se, you know, that I'm sure you're always learning in some capacity outside of a graduate school degree at times. I was curious why you each were talking when it comes to the writing side of things or coming into an entry-level position. Is there any support or opinion on sites like Upworks or Fiverr gaining experience with freelancing work? Are you seeing freelancing in your businesses becoming more relevant than full-time hires in certain areas? Just curious.
We have a staff of freelancers all the time. They do freelance developmental work. Not copy editing, that is sadly mostly offshored. But development work, we have 30 people who freelance all the time. Some are former employees, some are people who decided they wanted to be at home with their children. Some work in really remote places and they work different hours, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that they absolutely have a great role. As an author, I use them sometimes for graphics, I haven't used them for editing per se, though I do have a friend who's an editor who is on those platforms, and that's how she generates a lot of work. I've done it for different types of documents, anything that I want to look good and I don't have a skill for. I can, for just a couple of bucks, I can put it up there and try to get something back. And so it's sort of a low risk kind of place, but it's also as the creator, they have the ability to do a lot of different work and work with different people and build up a skill set and also build up a set of clients. I think that depending on what people want to do in publishing, there is a lot of opportunity there even if they have another job, just to build up some other skills along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, marketing is I mean, honestly, we're very gig heavy. So I think it's very likely that you will find yourself wanting to do some gig work eventually. I will tell you that I have no intention to do that to myself. I like my cushy 9 to 5. I shouldn't say it's 9 to 5 because Wiley, like we're remote first now. So most of the time I just work whenever I want. Uh, and my team is based in Europe. So I typically work in the mornings and then, kind of meander and then come back in the afternoons or whatever. But that's a totally different topic. But I love my cushy job, right? I love that I get to come to work and I don't have to like worry about paycheck to paycheck or needing more experience. Like my team is really diverse. And what I mean by that is like we also have, if like we want to learn something one day, like if I want to pick up a new skill, like say I want to start doing more graphic design, I know that they will help me pursue that goal. And so for me, I don't really have the opportunity to go and look outside for gig type work or freelance work just because I don't need it. However, we do use external vendors occasionally. Like we do have some people who help with like marketing automation. Interesting, Lisa, that is also offshored. So it's not typically in the US. We hire another company outside of the US. And then there are some like positions within that like are also copywriters, and then other freelance work that comes around occasionally. But it's typically, I really like the idea of just working for a company and just being happy. But yeah, call me old fashioned.
There are pluses and minuses to both, right? It's a good segue, Sarah, into how you answered that question. A student asked, what does the average day at your job look like? So Chrissy or Lisa, if you'd like to share your average day post-pandemic, what it looks like, or if we are post-pandemic, I think we are.
I don't have an average day. I am, in an ideal world, I'd get up and write for a little while and then I'd do some marketing stuff and then, but there's no, an ideal day doesn't even exist, I feel like, anymore. But there's usually at least one hour of writing, depending on what I'm doing. I also have to do prep for my writing class with my coach, and marketing is a big piece. And also all the pieces of putting a book together are just that art writing and art marketing. There's a big kind of middle piece of putting them together that can take a lot of time that we forget about.
I don't think it matters what kind of role you have. I think your days are always going to be pretty varied. And you might plan to do something, you might have goals for the day, but there's always something interrupts and suddenly your day goes off the rails and you are working on that instead. I go to a lot of meetings because at this point, I'm more facilitator and traffic director. So I might have a phone call with the with my colleagues in India in the morning. And then I have my own teams that I'm working with. I meet with my direct reports each week for half an hour, just for status updates, sales meetings, marketing meetings, cross-functional meetings. I go to a lot of meetings. I do block out. I'm trying to follow the practice of blocking out time so that I do have time to get my own work done.
I need to take
Yeah,
a lesson out of that book.
Yeah, I think there might not be an average day. When you're a publisher, you're kind of the coordinator of all of the pieces.
For me, my average day is really like you, Lisa, very different day to day. It's funny because when I was interviewing people interviewing organizations when I first was leaving school, my favorite question to ask was, what does the day-to-day look like? What am I going to be doing day to day? And I'd always get this very like vague question or like vague answer of like, oh, you know, you'll be doing this and 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 this. What? Like I was always so confused by the answers that I would get. And only really now does it make sense. Like, do I really connect it? Because truly there's no like day to day, like your day is kind of what you make it. And I think that's regardless of like being in marketing or not. But yeah, marketing is also very hectic. Like one day I could be doing, you know, putting together 15 creatives for this huge project that we're going to launch, or one day I could just be copywriting all day long. You know, all this week I'm in training because we're moving to a new system. So it's just training. And so it's every day is different. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's probably one of the joys of the career, right? On certain days, is that every day is different, right? I'm going to combine these last two questions. You know, publishing is a big field. How do you know which area to specialize in or pursue? And this, I don't know if it's the same student because they're anonymous, but they're also very interested in literature, and what advice you might have in that area as well, in publishing. So how do you decide what works for you in publishing, and specifically any advice on the literature avenue? They mentioned Penguin.
I want to real quick just mention something. As a recent graduate, I was interested in publishing. At education publishing, I was interested in also publishing. So working at like Penguin Random House was something that I would have loved to have done. Preferably, I think I would love to work in children's literature. So just throwing that out there. So yes, it is like a dream job, right? Like that's so cool. Like who doesn't want to work in that? Again, like I shouldn't generalize, but I just want to mention, like, don't get caught up in these, like, I want to do X and I got to do it right now. Don't get caught up in that, because like, you're just going to get frustrated. You're going to get burned out because you're like, why can't I get there? I mean, I don't know if you all ever look at this, but like Penguin Random House would post a job for like, I don't know, children's literature marketing. Like, I think I've seen that type of job before, you know, something like that. And there's like 1,000 applicants. Like that is just so scary. And I think that that's something that, you know, we need to just get outside that box and say, we don't need, like, how can we get ourselves in front of that? Like, don't even think about that. Like, if you want to apply for that, apply for it. Who knows? Maybe you'll get it. But don't think about that too much. Think about like, well, what are other opportunities that exist within the publishing sector? Because you could start off in journals publishing, like where I'm at, right? And you can work your way up there. So I think like Lisa, you also had like Elsevier on your resume. Work at like different publishers. Don't just say, I want to work in literature right now. You can work your way up to it. Like if you're not able to get that job that you want so badly. So I want you to remember, like, don't be so caught up in like those big ideas, that dream job, because the odds are that you're not going to get it right this second, but you can eventually. You just need to work your way towards it.
Sarah, I love you sharing that, because we have that conversation often of your first job is not your last job. You've not failed at life if you're not graduating and entering it and making six figures. It is all work in progress, and your internship does not need to be exactly what you're doing, but can be focused and get you great connections and network.
Wait, Katie, I'll jump on that, because
Yes.
I had through the Penn State Mentor Program, I had a mentee, and I loved her. I still love her. She's awesome. She started in a job that she insisted she would love with another publishing company. And even after she graduated, we kept in touch. And after 6 months, she said, "You were right. I hate this job." So through a series of people I knew, she knew, we got some interviews. She actually moved to Walters Kluwer, and she spent 2 years in our journals department as a publishing assistant, which is sort of the next level up from whatever Sarah was saying. And then at the end of 2 years, she had built her skills, and now she's actually moved to a different job that she loves. But that was a 4-year progression through 3 different companies.
Mm-hmm. And I think what I want students to hear too is she had a network. She had a
Yes.
support system, and it was a Penn Stater. I just shared a link to the Alumni Mentor Program for those of you here. The Alumni Mentor Program is our formalized mentor program for the College of Liberal Arts. We have over 800 alumni ready to connect with our students individually. As Lisa shared, it could be a longer term relationship, one that supports your career. You could be connected with an alumni, same major or same career field of interest, but there are lots of opportunities. Our person in charge of that recently was promoted. Lauren was promoted, but we are still monitoring and making matches, just a little bit delayed, but it's still happening. And we'll be moving forward with that. It's a wonderful, wonderful program. I also shared bookjobs.com. Someone had asked, how do you get in touch with publishers? I would love your networking ideas. Networking is so important in any career. But I would also say that book jobs can be a resource, as well as the individual publishers' career sites. Some of them don't have to come to these career job posting sites like, LinkedIn or Indeed, because they're coming for them. As Sarah said, there's 1,000 people applying for that position. So check out and have an understanding of publishers you might be interested in. There are all different sizes of those groups, from small local to, Random House, as we mentioned. So I would make sure you're aware of all those opportunities. We are getting closer to the time. So any additional advice you have to our students, ways for them to be engaging, promoting themselves, developing and networking into the career of publishing?
I want to mention, it's really important to make a list. And this is more like general, like it doesn't have to be just in terms of like publishing jobs. Make a list, put it on your notes in your phone, or put it on your desk, or I don't know, in the bathroom mirror, like whatever it is. Make this list and put all of your like must-haves. Like I need to make X amount of money out of university. I need to have this amount of vacation days. I need to be working with this specific piece. So like whatever it may be, make this list and try to be specific, and like try to organize it in a way that like, okay, you might not get everything on your list, but like what are the must-haves versus what are the ones that are like kind of less, okay, that'd be great if I got that many vacation days. But I want you to like make that list, just because I think that it's so important to look back on it as you're interviewing with whatever company or whatever role it is that you're applying for, and think about it. Like, are they meeting that list? Like, is that job right for you? Because like Lisa was saying, she has this mentee who was in a role that she thought was going to be perfect for her. And I guarantee you that if she was looking at that list and she didn't take into consideration all the things that she really wanted, maybe that's why it wasn't the right role in the end, right? So just have those must-haves for yourself and stick to them, because no matter what you want to do, you're going to be unhappy if it's not what you really need, right? So just remember that.
And remember that people want to help. Don't be afraid to reach out. People do want to help.
I always say my biggest pet peeve, a student who says I had no support or I didn't know. So my advice is to read your email because we are trying to tell you. But I know you're getting a lot of them too. So, Chrissy?
I would say when you're applying for a job, and ask questions and listen to the answers. You might think you want that job at Random House. And so you may hear what you want to hear, which may not be what the recruiter's actually saying to you. So if they talk about like hours are crazy, they mean you're not going to work. It's not going to be Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That means, they're going to call you at 8 o'clock and there's some book emergency, and there are book emergencies. So listen to those cues to make sure that it's actually the right fit for you. Because I've seen it. I've done hiring in other jobs, and people hear what they want to hear sometimes, but really try to drop what you want and your dreams about the job so that you can hear what the job actually is.
Yeah.
That's a good advice. I think sometimes we're so busy thinking about what we're going to say that we never heard what was said.
Yeah. Also, remember that it's okay to transition. Like I was in my first role out of university for a year. And I really loved it, but at the end of the day, like there were less and less resources for it. And I could just feel that it wasn't doing me any justice anymore, right? Like I felt like I wasn't learning anymore. I felt like it just wasn't good and it wasn't a good fit anymore. And it's okay. It's okay to move, and think also like instead of moving out of Wiley, I moved internally. So I had an opportunity to go across the table and work with a different department. And I think that that's okay. Like, I think it's really important to remember that it's all right to transition out of jobs that are not right for you or not serving you anymore. So once you get into a role and you feel like it's not right, stay in it for a little bit longer if things are okay, but don't be afraid to transition out of it. That's another thing I wanted to mention.
Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for your time. If anyone has any additional questions, now would be a great time to throw them into the chat. I think I got all of the, oh, maybe, yep. So someone asked, this is I can answer, apply for an internship. Do you email the publisher directly and introduce yourself? Is that professional enough? Most programs have postings for internships. So they'll have a formalized program, especially at the larger publishers, where you'll find that on their career website. I would suggest to the student that added this question, please feel free to make a career coaching appointment with one of us here in the Career Enrichment Network. We can help you to navigate those sites, make sure your resume is ready to go. That's really important, especially in this field is, it's not just the content, but the presentation as well, coming into publishing, and the attention to detail that can also be demonstrated on your resume. So we want to help you to design that. Cover letters can be very important, as well as some writing samples you may need. So feel free to make an appointment with us, either stopping in for our drop-ins tomorrow from 2 to 4, or you can schedule through Nittany Lion Careers and we can work you through this process. It's not a complicated one, but it's very similar to applying for a job.
Yes, I would agree, Sarah. I was an acquisitions editor for a long time.
I was like, I didn't know if I should say it, but I meant to mention this. I had a friend who ended up transitioning into our For Dummies team, and they were an acquisitions editor. And so she specifically worked on that Queen Elizabeth book. And so that would be like working with authors and like finding the authors to actually write the books and checking things and coordinating schedules, like all of that. It's so cool. So that's another role, just so you know.
Thank you. Thank you all. We appreciate your time and energy and supporting our students, being great mentors to those that you have. We hope you can all come back to campus here soon, Sarah, for the first time to visit us in Happy Valley, and look forward to connecting you again. Again, this is recorded, so this will be on our YouTube channel. It's under the College of Liberal Arts here at Penn State. There's also some additional videos from the last 2 years that we've done. One is on freelance writing, specifically on Upworks and the gig economy, from a faculty member here, Jenna Spinelli, as well as a one on publishing that was Penguin Random House connected, so from another alumna. So we appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you for inviting